that the army goes rolling along. First to fight for the right and to build the nation's might, and the army goes rolling along. Proud of all we have done, fighting till the battle's won, and the army goes rolling along. And it's high, high, hey, the army's on its way. Down off the games on its run. For wherever we go, you'll always know that the army goes rolling along. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He hath loosed the faithful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah.
53. What happened? I'm sure they can. Which town are you from? From Manila? He's got that position. He gets stuck in the need a few more question asking people about the same. You can see you from there. Spot when he comes up.
Good with you?
Yeah, it's good. Thanks.
Nobody even walked up like this is fucking.
And they pay you. You can kill your contact with somebody. I'm going to take some time. Put some people on the right field. You can play the next one. Right. Victor? Whatever. He's a little terror. Right around.
All right, folks, welcome. My name is Jen. I'm from Golden State Times. What you guys are watching right now is footage from outside the White House as Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State, is set to come out and address the press regarding his recent trip to China, North Korea, and other countries. So make sure you guys stay tuned live here at Golden State Times. Here he comes.
Good afternoon, everyone. How y'all doing? I just want to say two things quickly. First, I returned late last night from North Korea from a trip where we made real progress. While there's still a long way to go and much work to do, we can now see a path to where we'll achieve the ultimate goal, which is the full and final verified denuclearization of North Korea. I want to thank Chairman Kim for the time that I got to spend with him, where we got to talk about all the range of issues that are in front of our two countries that will let us get there. He appreciated the President having sent me, and we will, in short order, be able to talk about when the President will get a chance to meet with him at what will be the second summit. And then the second thing I wanted to say was I wanted to thank Ambassador Haley for the good work that she's done. She's been a great partner of mine for the now 5 months that she and I have been working together, and I want to wish her very well in whatever comes next for her. So thank you.
Would you like to take a picture?
Thank you all.
Did you know she was resigning? Can you talk about the Saudi journalist?
All right, folks, stand by. We are getting the footage from inside the
I just wanted to say hi, and that's pretty much it.
You have press at the
All right, folks, sorry about that. Yeah, we're getting footage from inside the press briefing room for the State Department. So give me a second while I put it up on your screen. State Department press briefing. That's the reason this live stream is on right now. But I just wanted to show you guys real quick what was going on inside, outside the White House as Secretary of State Mike Pompeo just arrived from his trip to North Korea. And also he went to China. So just give me a second as I get this ready for you folks. State Department press briefing coming in just a few minutes. Thank you.
you today? Courtney, welcome to the front row. Nice to see you all. I'd like to start out with a couple announcements this afternoon. The first is about the earthquake and the tsunami that took place in Indonesia. On September the 28th, an earthquake and tsunami struck central Sulawesi, Indonesia, leaving more than 1,200 people dead, many injured, and it displaced thousands. Our thoughts and prayers go out to those who've been affected by the natural disasters. Our mission in Indonesia immediately reached out to the government of Indonesia to offer assistance. We have provided an initial tranche of funding and deployed USAID disaster experts to conduct damage assessments, identify priority needs, and coordinate U.S. response efforts with the government of Indonesia. We're working with USAID and our counterparts at other government agencies to determine what additional help the United States government can provide. Several U.S. citizens have been safely evacuated. There have been no reports of U.S. citizens who've been killed or injured. Our mission in Indonesia is ready to provide all possible consular assistance to affected U.S. citizens. We urge U.S. citizens in the affected areas who are safe to contact their loved ones directly and update their social media status. If you are in the affected area and need immediate emergency services, please contact local authorities. The United States and Indonesia are strategic partners and friends, and we stand together with the people of Indonesia at this challenging time. I can also share with you that our President Trump, spoke with the Indonesian president earlier today to express our condolences on behalf of the U.S. government. The White House will provide a readout of that phone call. Next, I would like to thank the Senate Foreign Relations Committee again for continuing to meet with our well-qualified nominees and move them a little closer to taking up their posts on the field. Right now, we have more than 60 nominations that are awaiting confirmation. The majority of those nominees are foreign service officers who bring instrumental skills and decades-long experience to critical posts around the globe, places like Bangladesh, Kenya, Mozambique, Yemen, Uzbekistan, and many others. Missions critical to advancing our U.S. leadership and our foreign policy priorities. The Senate Foreign Relations Committee agrees that these are good, solid candidates, and as I've been saying, we still have too many vacancies here at the State Department, from ambassadors to our folks serving at the Assistant Secretary level, also at the Undersecretary level. Today, once again, we call on the Senate to act so that these candidates can take their place alongside the finest diplomats in the world. While we're talking about those confirmations, I would then like to announce that we have a new undersecretary who started here at the State Department. And I want to extend a warm welcome to Eric Uland, who started this week as the Director of U.S. Foreign Assistance Resources. He comes to the department from the Millennium Challenge Corporation and was previously the staff director for the Senate Budget Committee. Look forward to seeing him around the building. Last thing I'd like to announce is that the Secretary will be traveling later this week to 4 countries. He's headed to Asia. Secretary Pompeo will travel to Japan, North Korea, the Republic of Korea, and China from October 6th to the 8th. In Tokyo, October 6th and 7th, the Secretary will meet with Prime Minister Abe and Foreign Minister Kono. In Pyongyang, on October the 7th, the Secretary will meet with Chairman Kim. In Seoul, on October 7th and 8th, the Secretary will meet with President Moon and Foreign Minister Kang. In Beijing, on October the 8th, the Secretary will meet with his Chinese counterparts to discuss bilateral, regional, and global issues. With that, I'd be happy to take your questions. So we've got a lot going on today. Matt, you want to start?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that trip announcement, so
Well, there
I'll
you
defer
go.
to someone else first.
Okay. Courtney, I'll start with you.
U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Kay Bailey Hutchison, mentioned today to reporters that Russia continues to violate the INF Treaty and that while the U.S. would prefer a diplomatic solution, it would be pursuing a potential capability to take out a missile that could hit any of our countries, she said. Is this a change in policy? What does that mean exactly?
Well, we have said for quite some time that Russia has not been in compliance with the INF Treaty. We've been saying this for 4 years now. Russia has not taken any steps to return to compliance. Instead, they've just levied specious accusations about U.S. compliance. And yes, we do believe that we are in compliance with the INF Treaty. I think what Ambassador Hutchison was talking about was improving our overall defense and deterrence posture. The current situation where Russia is just blatantly violating our central tenet of the INF Treaty is untenable. Our goal is Russian compliance. We go back and say that time and time again, that Russian compliance is what we are seeking. We've taken diplomatic, we've taken military, research and development, and also economic measures to increase the costs on Russia and ensure the security of the United States and our allies if Russia chooses not to return into compliance with its treaty obligations. So these are a series of ongoing conversations that are being had right now. The United States is committed to upholding its arms control obligations and expects Russia to do the very same thing. Ambassador Hutchison said our goal is Russian compliance, and we're in close consultation with our allies on this issue. Okay. Pardon me? Oh, thank you. Apparently, Ambassador Hutchison just tweeted about it, so I'd encourage you to take a look at her tweet for any further questions. Okay?
Yes.
Hi.
You're referring us to a tweet for further questions?
Well, sometimes yes, because Ambassador Hutchison spoke to that herself in her tweet. Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Thank you. On the trip you just announced, so the Secretary will meet with Chairman Kim. Can you tell us who else he will be meeting, if you know that already? And also, what do you concretely expect from this trip to move on? There has been a bit of stall on the negotiations. Now, what are the steps you expect from North Korea? And the last thing is...
I wouldn't, let me just pause you right there, because I wouldn't agree with your characterization that there has been a stall. I would say that there has not been. As you know, the Secretary met with the Foreign Minister last week.
I was saying before that,
in
because
North Korea,
the President
and
canceled
we
last trip
continue,
saying there wasn't
I see. Okay.
progress
We continue
enough.
to have these conversations, and I think it shows forward progress and momentum that the Secretary is making his fourth trip back in less than a year. The first, of course, was as CIA director. This will be his third as Secretary of State. And that shows the President's commitment to the agreement that he and Chairman Kim came to at the Singapore summit. The Secretary going on for follow-on conversations. As we often say, the conversations continue. Of course, we have quite a ways to go, but we look forward to the next steps in this conversation.
Which steps?
Next steps in continuing the conversation. Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of these things, as you well know, are not things that we're going to discuss publicly. These are private diplomatic conversations as we work toward our goal of full denuclearization of North Korea.
And does the Secretary still stick to his date of January 2021, since the President said after that it wasn't a good idea to have timelines? And
So I would encourage you to go back and look at the transcript. The Secretary said he was hopeful that could happen. Hopeful that could happen, recognizing that there is still a long way to go. The President said, and the Secretary,
the denuclearization to be completed by.
And the Secretary and the President said we're not going to set arbitrary deadlines in the interim. We're hopeful. We're working toward that goal. Everyone recognizes that we have a way to go, ways to go, and a lot of work that is left to be done. I'm not going to get ahead of the Secretary's meetings that he'll have in Pyongyang, but I know he looks forward to continuing the conversation.
Is it still the administration's position that you are not willing to consider any easing of sanctions until denuclearization has been, full denuclearization has been verified, but that you are willing to consider something short of, to do things, confidence-building steps that are short of sanctions, along the lines of what the Secretary himself talked about when he was in Tokyo after the last time he went?
I don't have his remarks in front of me from Tokyo at that time, but among the things that the Secretary discussed were security assurances, things of that nature. So the United States has not changed its policy. Nothing has changed in that regard over the past few months.
You're willing to do that short of, you're still willing to take steps that are short of sanctions?
I'm not going to characterize it that way. Sanctions remain in full effect. Not just the United States sanctions, UN Security Council resolutions, and the other countries that fully backed those Security Council resolutions. All of that remains in effect. We are not easing the pressure in that regard at all.
Any consideration of a peace declaration of any type, Heather?
We are not. Nothing has changed with regard to our policy. We've discussed that a lot of times before.
So the fact that that the Secretary is going, should we take that to mean that North Korea has done something or shown something in particular to make him feel that this is going to be productive?
Well, I haven't been privy to all the letters and the communications that have gone back and forth, but obviously these conversations are going in the right direction, and we feel confident enough to hop on a plane to head there to continue the conversations.
And in China, no, I'm not changing the subject, just based on this trip. Are these going to be high-level meetings? I mean, is the Secretary satisfied that the Chinese are going to produce the people in the meeting that he wants to meet with, and they're not I mean, this is going to be, when you say his counterparts or his counterpart, this is going to be foreign minister level and high level meetings, right? They're not just producing junior ministers.
I think when the secretary goes, there's the expectation that he meets with someone who's his appropriate counterpart. I don't have anything beyond what I provided you just now. Okay? Hi.
North Korea 지난 foreign
Okay, hold on. I'll come back to you, Jen.
So in China, is the secretary attending the U.S.-China diplomatic and security dialogue? Is that the purpose of the travel?
The trip is, as far as I understand, to have conversations about North Korea and other issues of bilateral concern. I don't have anything beyond that right now. This is something that we just got confirmation of, so I'm going to hesitate to comment any more on beyond what I have right here.
So is the DSD still happening? Is the diplomatic?
We've never
security-
confirmed anything. DOD's never confirmed anything. If I have any additional trips or any information about China travel, I'll bring it to you as soon as I can. Okay?
Heather, the statement of the president recently, how he was in love with Kim Jong-un, is that help or hinder Mr. Pompeo's trip? One would have thought that it reduces pressure on Mr. Kim to take some of the steps that Mr. Pompeo wants him to do.
I think if our leaders have relatively friendly relations, that's a good thing. That can only help us to achieve our final goal.
But the president has also said a timeline doesn't matter. I mean, he keeps saying things which makes it sound as if the pressure's being eased off of the.
I don't think so. I mean, if you
He
look
did say the
at
timeline
our policies have not changed one bit. We got behind the maximum pressure campaign. The United States government still stands firmly behind the sanctions put in place. The world stands behind those sanctions that have put in place. We've not eased that one bit. In fact, every chance we have the opportunity to discuss, whether it's with China or Russia or any other country around the world, we're talking about keeping the sanctions in place and not easing those sanctions on North Korea until we see the full fully verified denuclearization.
That isn't what the Chinese and the Russians said in the Security Council last week, is it?
They are standing by the sanctions. Now, we do always say they can do more. They can do more, but they stand by those sanctions. Okay? Hi, Janet. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Heather. As you know that the North Korean Foreign Minister Lee Hyung-ho said last week at the UN, he said that the United States must first have corresponding measures before North Korea, denuclearizations. What is your position of this, and what is the corresponding measures of North Korea?
Could you repeat the last part? I'm sorry. Say the last part again.
Corresponding measures of North Korea. So what kind of that? And do you have anything Secretary, when he
I can tell you our policy has not changed. Our policy has not changed. Things stand firmly in place, such as the sanctions remain in place. We continue to coordinate very closely, as we will on this upcoming trip, with our South Korean and also our Japanese counterparts, and we'll continue to move ahead and continue with the conversations.
The declaration of the end of the war, that the President Moon pressure to United States. Are you agree with that?
We are closely coordinating with the Japanese and the South Koreans, and we look forward to having meetings with them when we go on this next trip. Okay? Okay. Hold on. Saeed, go right ahead.
Wait, hold on. I'm still on North Korea. Is it still the...
I can come back to you, Matt. Hold on. Let's go to Saeed.
I thought we wanted to stay with North Korea.
It's okay. We'll come back to it then. Saeed, go right ahead.
Thank you, Matt. I wanted to ask you about Israeli action in Gaza. I mean, in the last few days, they have turned Gaza into a free fire zone. They killed 10 Palestinians, including 4 children. Today alone, 63 people were injured. Yesterday, the same thing. Are you okay with that? Are you not upset? Are you not concerned that the civilians are being basically just shot out at will by the Israeli army?
We've addressed this before when these types of things have happened. And I'll go back to saying what I've always said, and that is we are always concerned about credible reports of excessive use of force. I imagine that the Israeli government will be taking a look at this. We always look forward to governments taking a look at their own actions. Let's remember, in large part, what has gotten the Israelis and Palestinians to this point, and that is Hamas. And Hamas bears the ultimate responsibility for the misery of the people living in Gaza and in some of the surrounding areas. Hamas is reckless when it encourages people to show up, when it encourages people to fight, when it encourages young people to try to engage in violence. That is a very dangerous situation. There was an extremely tense situation, you recall, back in the spring, and say, don't take your children to the area, leave your children at home. But remember, Hamas is the one that bears ultimate responsibility for
These
this.
kids get shot at about 300 meters away. I mean, they are in their own closed area. I mean, they're not basically jumping over the fence. They're not going to the Israeli side and so on. They are, in their open prison territory.
I'm not going to grossly, I'm not going to characterize everything as being far or close, Saeed. I don't think that's a fair assessment of the situation, but I think I just laid it out that we're always concerned with the credible use of force. And then we go back to saying that Israel does have a right to defend itself. That's U.S. policy, and that hasn't changed
Okay,
either.
I wonder if you would address the Khan al-Ahmar village, the Bedouin village, because, all your allies have objected to it. Do you object to the demolition of this Palestinian Bedouin village in Khan al-Ahmar?
Yeah, my latest understanding is what it was not too terribly long ago when you had asked me this very same question. The impending evacuation of the Bedouin residents in that village follows a lengthy legal process. I believe that's gone on for 8 years or so. And I just have to refer you back to the government of Israel on that one. Lori, go right ahead.
The UN, which monitored the elections in the Kurdistan region, has described them as successful. Is that a position you'd agree with?
That the elections in the Kurdistan region.
Yeah, that was
just the question. Yeah, okay. We congratulate the people of Iraq from the Kurdistan region for participating in the election on the 30th of September. Voting is obviously a critical part of any democratic society. We look forward to the final certification of the results of that vote. My understanding is that it has not been certified just yet, so we will certainly keep a close eye on that, and we would encourage the quick formation of the new Kurdish government.
So
and while you're standing there, let me just congratulate your friend behind you. Yes, we all heard you at the press conference asking the president questions. Lori, I'm sorry you weren't there to ask those questions yourself. But as I heard you I was sitting in the back of the room. I said, "There he is. There's our guy," meaning our friend here from the press briefing room asking a question. And I also saw, was it your editorial in the Wall Street Journal today?
It was an imposter's editorial.
Oh, it was, okay. It was Majid's editorial.
Yeah.
So nicely done. Just wanted to say that. Lori, go ahead. You had another question. I'll come right back to you. Lori, did you have another question?
Well, I have two more questions briefly. On Friday, the Russian foreign minister strongly criticized your position on Iran, saying there's no proof that it backed terrorism and you can't keep Iran in a cage within its borders. What is your response to that?
I think I would go to something that the French just announced today. And there's probably no one who has felt terrorism stemming from Iran, perhaps more than, the Syrians, that has felt it more than some Europeans. As we just learned today that the French government announced that it had seized assets from Iran's Ministry of Intelligence and Security Services and the assets of 2 Iranian officials. This was after there was a disruption in plans to bomb a political rally near Paris just this June. So we have seen that as Americans, our Marine barracks bombings back in 1983. We've seen those types of attacks that Iran has been solely responsible for. We've seen this type of thing that I just mentioned, the news coming out of France today. We've seen what Iran has done in Syria. We've seen what Iran has done in other countries. We see Iran's devastation that it causes around the world as the world's top sponsor of terrorism. So whatever the Russians said about that, we're not buying it.
Okay, and final question somewhat related to that. The Pentagon today, they suggested that the closure of the consulate in Basra, which you announced, hasn't yet begun. Could you give us an update on that?
Sure. So we ordered, the Secretary made the decision late last week to announce ordered departure of our diplomats who were serving in Basra in southern Iraq. In terms of the timing of that and all the details of our colleagues' movement, I'm not going to get into that for obvious reasons, but just I can tell you that the Secretary obviously made that decision, and it's not a decision that one would make or take that decision lightly. It's something that a lot of thought and planning and preparation goes into that. Okay, go right ahead. Hold on one second.
Today, Iraqi parliament elected for presidency, and That's mean Iran has more influence than you over there, and they try divided the coast. And before State Department has statement and support strong and unique Iraqi Kurdistan in federal and democratic of Iraq.
So,
any comments about
yeah,
that?
we just saw this announcement maybe within the last hour or so. So I don't have any comment on that specific selection. I can tell you we respect Iraq's democratic process. As you well know, we have a very strong relationship with the government and we believe the people of Iraq. That relationship is firm, it is friendly, and we are committed to the country of Iraq and also Iraq's sovereignty. And that's something important that this administration discusses, the importance of sovereignty, and certainly Iraqis can understand that and appreciate that and respect that as well. We don't support any particular party or any particular candidate, but we support a fair and transparent process. Okay. Go right ahead. Yeah.
There are some reports of fraud in the province of Suleimania, and two major opposition parties have rejected the outcome of the election. Have you heard those complaints?
I have not heard that complaint, but I think as I just mentioned a moment ago that the results would have to be certified, so I'll just hold off comment until that takes place. Cindy, go right ahead.
Thanks. I know the Pakistani foreign minister may still be here in the building. Are there any updates on attempts to reset the relationship? And he hinted on Fox News that there might be a compromise in the fate of the Pakistani doctor who helped the U.S. find Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, I think they've been saying that for quite some time, that there could be some movement on that. We have yet to see that. I can confirm to you that the Secretary did meet with his counterpart at the State Department today. I'm not sure exactly when that was. It was sometime this afternoon. I don't have a readout of that meeting just yet. If I have one to bring provide to you, I certainly will. But we had a good trip when the Secretary went to Pakistan and had good, fruitful meetings with the Pakistani government.
Get a follow-up on that?
Okay. Hold on one second. Let me go to...
All right, folks. So we have our 10-minute warning from the State Department as Heather Nauert is getting ready to go to the press briefing room where she will address the press regarding Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's recent trips to North Korea, to China, and also the departure of UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, as today she resigned and she said that she'll stay till the end of the year. The president says that there's going to be an announcement of who's going to replace Nikki Haley for that position within the next few weeks, or maybe even earlier than that, in a press briefing that the president had earlier. So again, the State Department press briefing starts in around 10 minutes, the live one. This, what you're watching right now, is from the last press briefing that happened on October the 2nd. The live State Department press briefing starts in 10 minutes. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to follow up. I know that there have been some comments out of the State Department on this, but is there any reason for concern for same-sex partners who currently hold U.S. visas working at the UN that they may no longer be able to stay in the U.S.?
Short answer, no. We just did a background briefing for reporters about less than 2 hours ago. I haven't had a chance to take a look at that transcript. I wasn't on that call, so I don't want to get too into the details because our technical experts, who are the experts on visas and all that, were involved in that call. So I just have to refer you back to that, and if you have any additional questions, I'd be happy to try to get an answer for you.
This seems to have ignited a fair amount of outrage, which the people on the call tried to tamp down and say was basically misinformed outrage. But just look at the headlines of one of the advocacy groups that
Matt,
same-sex.
Are you saying that you believe all the headlines that you read?
Heather, I believe everything I read. Absolutely.
I know you do not believe the headlines that you read.
But it said UN same-sex.
Hold on a second. The reporters, you're all the ones who are telling me that you don't write your own headlines, that there are other people who do it, and you grumble as much as anyone, if not more than anyone else in Washington, about those headline writers who will often misinterpret stories that you yourselves have written. So I just wanted to highlight that.
There, but I was joking when I said I believe everything I read. But I just wanted you to say, I mean, some of this stuff is like same-sex people were going to be ripped from their families, and if they don't get married, they're going to be deported. The people on the call said that was not correct, that there would be exceptions made for people who were in tenuous circumstances, but that they were all on background. No one was willing to put their name to it. So can you say from the podium?
That's in keeping with the State Department policy.
Well, I just want
in
someone
terms
from
of
this
putting people on
administration-
background calls, and that is something that we regularly do,
I know.
so that our rank and file colleagues and technical experts can have the freedom to express and explain policy
get it.
without worrying about having
I
reporters
get it.
hound
I'm not-
them every single minute.
I'm not looking
so,
for a
Matt,
defense
again,
of background calls.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you are prepared to say on the record that what they said on background, which was that this won't, that people are not going to be ripped, that families aren't going to be torn asunder, and the other thing that they said was that this is actually a way for the administration to promote marriage equality. And while it may be, it's an awfully odd way to do that.
That is your opinion, that it's an odd way to do that. I'm going to have to refer to the background call at this point. I'm sorry, it may be frustrating for you. I haven't had a chance to even review that transcript, so I'm sure you can appreciate that I want to bring you the most accurate information. I want to have a chance to review what my colleagues, the technical experts, have said about this. If you need something from me on the record, let me know. I'd be happy to provide it to you,
On that
okay?
call, there were a number of questions that just weren't answered, and
Okay.
one of them is...
Again, I was not on that call, but if you want to send me some of the questions and what you're interested in, I'd be happy to try to get you on the record answers to those things.
Okay, so one of the questions that wasn't answered was the special envoy position for LGBTI rights. Is that going to be filled?
I don't have any information for you on that today. Some of those would be White House nominations, and I just don't have any color on that today. Okay? Rich, go right ahead.
Just very briefly on Africa. The First Lady is there, and before going, she praised the work that USAID is doing. Of course, the administration has proposed very deep cuts to USAID's budget. Are there any concerns over mixed messages in that?
I don't think so at all. In fact, I know USAID Administrator Mark Green is proud and pleased to assist the First Lady with her trip over there. We've been watching from afar as we see the pictures of her with children and our colleagues on the ground who are doing such good work. So the U.S. government obviously has to take a look at where it's spending its resources and the best use of taxpayer dollars. The decisions that the government makes are not always decisions that individuals will always agree with, but we decide to make those decisions based on where we think that our taxpayer dollars can be best used. But the continent of Africa is one that's extremely important to this administration, to the U.S. government, and I think that is evident in the fact that the First Lady is making her first solo foreign trip to the African continent. Okay. Hold on. Sir, how are you?
I'm fine. I was going to ask, thank you, Heather, for, you mentioned earlier about Russia and its violation of the INF Treaty. The Russian defense minister recently announced that, I'll let you get that up.
Go right ahead. Sorry about something here.
Numerous S-300 surface-to-air missiles have been sent to Syria right now. The administration's reaction to this.
I saw that report. I cannot confirm that that is accurate. I hope that they did not. That would be I think, sort of a serious escalation in concerns and issues going on in Syria. But I just can't confirm it, so I don't have anything more for you on that right now.
Can you also Syria? Well, first of all, it would be a sort of serious escalation or a serious escalation?
It would be an escalation.
Okay. And then the other thing on Syria is that Secretary Mattis at a press conference in Paris today said that the number of diplomats posted in Syria has doubled. I know you don't want to talk about your staffing policies and in specifics, but is it correct that it's doubled? And even if that's not exactly accurate, are you in the process of boosting the number of people that you're putting, civilians, diplomats?
As you correctly predicted, we won't discuss the size or staffing of our posture, especially in a place like Syria, Matt, for obvious security concerns. But as you well know, we do have civilians who serve in Iraq. They're incredibly brave, who serve, yes, in Iraq, but in Syria as well, who are incredibly brave and do some incredible work on the part of the American people to help support Syrians. We are constantly looking for ways to enhance our effectiveness of our stabilization efforts in Syria. We consider that to be critical to the work that we do and the work in defeating ISIS. But in terms of the size of the footprint or the posture or whether we're doubling or tripling or any of that, we just won't get into that.
Well, what exactly are these people doing, or will they do? What do they do? When they get up in the morning,
the premise
after
of
they
your
eat
question
breakfast,
is that we will be changing the number of people there.
no, let's
Our
just
people,
say
I
that-
can tell you what our people have been doing.
or are doing right now.
I haven't checked to find out exactly what some of my colleagues are doing today. But in general, they have been involved in stabilization efforts. They've been involved in helping to find local Iraqi groups and other groups that have participated in, Syrian groups that have participated in removing rubble, in helping to get electricity back on in certain towns that have lost electricity, clean water, the rebuilding of schools is something that they have been involved with. Providing humanitarian aid is a big one that our folks are involved with. But what exactly they're doing today,
Well, no, I'm not
on the
looking
2nd
at
of
this
October,
minute.
that answer I can't give you that
I'm not looking
answer.
for a minute-by-minute update, but this is all stuff that you guys had been funding and you're no longer funding. So they are working, doing projects that other countries like the Saudis and the Emiratis are funding?
I'll double
Is that
check. I'll
correct?
find out the latest of what they're doing and see if I can bring that to you. Okay. Okay. And then we're gonna have to wrap it up pretty soon. Go right ahead.
The Chinese Foreign Ministry yesterday said the United States has recently expressed its intention to postpone the U.S.-China diplomatic and security dialogue. So my question is, has the United States requested to cancel that meeting, that dialogue?
I think I just addressed that, and that is we're going to Beijing. We'll be there in just a few days. I'm not going to get ahead of the secretary's meetings, and I can just tell you we look forward to heading to Beijing.
Is it fair to say that the U.S.-China diplomatic relation hasn't been affected by the recent, trade dispute and other tensions?
Look, I think in any relationship, you have your high points, you have your medium points, and in some countries, you have your low points. And I'm not going to characterize our relationship with China in any one of those three ways, but relationships can ebb and flow over time. So we have certainly a lot to talk about with the government of China, and look forward to that trip. Let me just move on to Nick, all the way in the back there. Hey, Nick.
Thanks. I do want to go back to North Korea. Go back to Michelle's question. Last time, obviously, the secretary was supposed to go. You canceled his trip last minute. What's changed now? Yesterday, KCNA, North Korean media, said the U.S. was spouting rubbish by forcing North Korea to declare its inventory, dismantle Yongbyon, in exchange for declaration of the end of the war. How is that kind of rhetoric helpful, and how is that different?
All right, folks, so we have live footage from inside the press briefing room at the State Department. We're going to be putting it up on your screen in just a second as we await Heather Nauert coming out in just a few minutes. So make sure you guys stay tuned live here at Golden State Times. I'll be putting it up on your screen in just a second. You guys are going to see a screen that says live stream starting soon, and we'll go on from there. Thank you so much for choosing Golden State Times as your stream of choice. And here it is, folks. State Department press briefing. This is live footage from inside the... Sorry about that. We're just fixing the audio. Hopefully getting the hot mic on in a minute.
its way. Now the front page is loud and strong. For wherever we go, you will always know that the army goes rolling along. First to fight for the right and to build the nation's might, and the army goes rolling along. Proud of all we have done, fighting till the battle's won, and the army goes rolling along. And it's high, high, hey, the army's on its way. Down off the caves on its front. For wherever we go, you will always know that the army goes rolling along.
Not going to work. We always do that. Okay, hold on. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Oh, well, we're going up. We'll see. I feel comfortable if we get up to 3,000, and then we'll see.
No, it's. Oh, it's still turning on.
You got a picture? Yeah. Yeah, but that picture ain't got to be a pretty one, I can tell you that. Oh, well, we're going at 2,000. Okay. All right, well, let me just step up in front of the mic and see what you get from here. Hold on a second. Okay. Good. Hold on a second. Got you on a nice delay here. All right, test 1, 2, 3, 4. Test 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Test it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Should I'll let her know. Yeah. You want? You said what again?
Nikki was on that hour. I guess trying to we don't see your camera. Oh yeah, it was just up. Turn it on and off. So, we'll give it to you. Du som är där så. And as more people put up their live view accounts, because I had like 1 or 2 interfaces at one point and then they all dropped. Yeah, definitely. Maybe, let me try to turn this off and once you start. Sorry, what did you say? Just turn the camera off a little. Okay, so someone that is getting a service. Okay. Okay, do you want me to send out that email or just let people know what you're shooting? Okay. Says online, so. It was just, Okay, thank you. It's really good work. Thank you. Okay, thank you. No, just not the work. That doesn't feel good, you know? Don't touch it. I hate when technology is like that. I remember I was trying to like cool my phone once. It was when
Is
we
this-
were That's us. Please be careful. And I was trying something cool, like trying to like shut out something else. And then off the shop.
Yeah, for as much money as shouldn't be that fragile.
Years or 12 years ago, in Pennsylvania, we've had enough hurricanes since then.
Not that hot.
It's not it's how bad.
Yeah, do the briefing.
What are they doing?
We're debriefing first, and then they're coming over here.
Status. Yeah, status. The governor is now. Here's one. You want to do that thing with line over here? You want to do that thing with I figured something. totally watch in the house. There's something or deep breathing. Or breathing.
Hey, how you doing? Hey, what's up?
Is it on? Yeah. Do I watch this one with the headphone in? Sure. Sorry, it's dirty. No, honestly. Oh, it's 2 seconds? Oh, this is not mine.
Just look at channel 2.
Yeah. No, channel 2 looks.
Is it kind of, because my new lavs are really sensitive.
No, it looks like it's literally the perfect spot.
Okay. And he's kind of quiet.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I think it could go up.
Hey, you guys know that light is hot, right? It's hot out there. We just kind of hot light is good.
Wait, what did you
That
say?
light goes on.
Oh, okay.
Just letting you know.
Thank you. If you don't see anything too bad.
Mic check, testing 1 2 1 2. Audio check, check, check. This is only a test. Mic check 1 2 1 2 1 2. Testing, testing, testing 1 2 1 2 from the podium. We're good. All right. Audio check, 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 check. 1 2 1 2. Mic check. Audio check, testing 1 1 1 1 2 1 2 1 2. Microphone check, testing 1 2 1 2 1 2. Everything's good. All right.
So it was pretty bad while I was over there. But now I think I'm just tired from my kids. So if I go to good night's sleep, it starts to talk about stuff. Yeah, I try to sleep on it. From San Francisco back was the most I was able to sleep. And then it was like, was it 5 hours? 2 hours. Just watched movies and no, it's not very well. Like I'll sleep, but then when I get off, it's like I'm still tired. I got to go to Japan. My mom was in Japan, but I didn't have time to see her. We spoke on the phone. That was about it. Well, she was in Virginia though. So, yeah. My sister lives there. Just last night. She was hanging out with she was hanging out with my mom when my mom called me. And so like at the end of the call she was like, "So do you want to speak to me?" And she was like, "No, I'm okay." Next year. Next year. My brother wanted me to pick up like some soccer gear that he's been doing. And the hotel was literally across the street from the soccer store. But every time I had like 3 times, so
Why they gonna now they must? What's their time? Yeah, there's a lot of years demonstrators there in front of the White House.
So if you include that, yeah, if you include that, and it wasn't a good travel. You should have been pretty lucky with like travel.
They say just next month. I don't know, I don't think so. Trump will go to North Korea that early. They have so many schedules for elections. Maybe after the election, maybe. Every time we between talk with me this morning. I know, but I texted. Yeah, I think they're listening. Every time I talk to somebody, they say, right away. They
All right, folks, welcome. My name is Jen. I'm from Golden State Times. We're awaiting the press briefing by Heather Nauert at the State Department. So make sure you guys please share the live stream on social media, and you guys also smack the thumbs up button below the video. That lets YouTube know that you guys like our content, that you guys like our coverage, and that you guys want to see more. Also, please, if you guys could share the live stream, like I said, on social media. And also, don't forget to go and set the notification for President Trump's rally tonight. He has a rally in Iowa tonight. So make sure you guys join us. It's at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, live here at Golden State Times. Thank you so much. Anybody that's sharing the live stream on Twitter or Gab will get a shout out from us as a thank you for helping us reach more patriots, for helping us reach more people, and helping out the channel. Thank you so much.
So you know when you like go to like the kiosk line, they'll let you do it. They didn't have the option. So I think it was like full book. So they
But he's supposed to pressure on sanctions against say that, like he never say he just completely brought out United Nations member.
I did not want to go to bed. I was like, oh, I do like 30, 40 minutes. Like sleep in my bed, but I knew if I got to bed, it would be so hard to get up. Yeah, so I stayed 7 hours.
All right, folks, you guys are amazing. There's a bunch of patriots that are sharing our live stream on social media. I have a huge list here. Let me start off with Eric. Thank you so much, Eric. Brian, Denise, Wind, Sean, Sue, Agam or Agam. I'm sorry if I butcher that. We have Harvey. We have Big Vern. We have Rick. We have Maker. We have New York for Trump. Thank you very much, CD, Randall, Mark, InfoWind, Activist Bowen. We have Solid Voter for Trump. We have Anita, Harold, Kay, Alfonso, Army, Shirley. We have UDT Seal, Robert, Al, and Proud Patriot. We're not done giving shout outs, folks. There's a bunch of other patriots that are sharing the live stream on social media, maybe even new ones since the last time I was in the microphone. So I'll go and get more names and then come back and give you guys a thank you and a shout out. Thank you. All right, folks. So we have a few more, quite a bit more Patriots that we want to give a shout out and a thank you to. We have Lynn, Light, Women for Trump 4, Michael, Neil, Heather, Jimmy, Grimmy. I'm a Jaywalker. We have Goen. We have Marlon. We have James. We have Joella. We have Ken, Andre. And we also have Daryl, Shane, and Deplorable Susanna. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream on social media. Oh, we also have Garden Gnome. Thank you so much, Garden Gnome, for sharing the live stream on social media. And we'll see you guys on the chat. Thank you.
When they had just one, I was there. Sometimes either just like out of yeah. Yeah, so very informational, but I literally remember nothing. We definitely a lot of stuff went there, so I did. Yeah, we did the plaza. It was a really nice hotel. Nice photography. But Yeah. Yeah. So it was nice, but yeah, those were like, but that's what you're gonna do there. I think it'll use the 20 cents Ohio and fly from there and then get really good. Okay, help me in like $14 or something or anything like that. Yeah. This one is like memorized. And Nikki Haley said she's not running in 2020. She said it in the letter to Trump. Don't feel like you're breaking your record loss. You'll get that.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Nice to see you all. Okay, a couple announcements to start before we're able to take a few questions today. First, I'd like to address the earthquake and tsunami in central Sulawesi in Indonesia. And I'd like to say that the United States is coordinating closely with the government of Indonesia to respond to the earthquake and tsunami that struck there. Since I spoke to you last week, the United States, through USAID, is now providing a total of $3.7 million in assistance through our partners to deliver essential relief items, including shelter kits, blankets, hygiene kits, solar-powered lamps, and other life-saving aid. USAID is also airlifting heavy-duty plastic sheeting to Indonesia to provide for emergency shelter needs of up to 110,500 people. USAID has deployed a team of disaster experts to coordinate our humanitarian response efforts and is supporting a U.S. Forest Service emergency operations expert who's on the ground providing technical support to the government of Indonesia's disaster response. The Department of Defense has provided 3 C-130s and has already transported nearly 63 metric tons of disaster relief supplies into the affected areas. The U.S. government has also provided advanced technologies to help the government of Indonesia map the disaster area. In addition, American companies have also mobilized to respond with
into
financial the affected areas. The U.S. government has also provided advanced technologies to help the government of Indonesia map the disaster area. In addition, American companies have also mobilized to respond with financial donations, heavy equipment, transportation, and other humanitarian supplies. The U.S. citizens we were aware of in the affected areas have been evacuated. We have no reports of U.S. citizens who've been injured or killed by the earthquake or the tsunami, and we urge any additional U.S. citizens in the affected areas to contact their loved ones directly and update them on their social media status. If you're in the affected area and need emergency services, please contact the local authorities. Next, I want to address something that the Secretary raised last week because nothing has changed. There are still 65 State Department nominees sitting in the United States Senate. That's over a quarter of all the senior level confirmable positions that the United States Department of State is tasked with using to achieve its diplomatic outcomes. There is bipartisan agreement that a fully staffed State Department is critical to American national security. The State Department has been criticized for having gaps in leadership positions, but now we've done our part to fix that. Now the Senate needs to do its part. As the Secretary has said, these candidates are quality candidates. They're not sitting on the Senate floor because of objections with respect to their quality, their professionalism, or their excellence and ability to deliver American foreign policy. The Secretary had addressed this last week, and he said we have members of the Senate for whom partisanship has now driven delay and obstruction of getting America's diplomatic corps into every corner of the world. What Senator Menendez and other members of the Senate are doing to hold back American diplomacy rests squarely on their shoulders. And with that, I'd be happy to take your questions. And you want to go
I'd like
ahead?
to ask about Jamal Khashoggi.
Mm-hmm.
Have you received any response from Saudi Arabia since Secretary Pompeo registered concerns regarding his disappearance?
Sure. Let's start out first. I'd like to say I imagine that most, if not all of you, saw the statement that we put out last night. You probably also heard the president's comments about it yesterday and also the vice president's tweet that he put out yesterday. From the Secretary on down, we have been engaged in this matter. This is something that we've been following. I understand that the President intends to speak with the Saudis, so I'm not going to get ahead of that conversation that the President may be having. In the Secretary's statement, he said that we've seen conflicting reports about his status. We're not going to make any judgments about what had happened to him. The United States is certainly concerned about his whereabouts. Senior officials at the State Department have spoken with Saudi officials through diplomatic channels about the matter. We call on the government of Saudi Arabia to conduct a thorough and transparent investigation.
It was nearly a week between his first reports of his disappearance and that statement from Secretary Pompeo. Why was there such a delay between those two events?
So are you assuming that taking time to put out a statement means that the State Department has not been doing anything? Is that your assumption?
What was the State Department doing before
The State Department was
came out?
engaged at the highest levels and also at the working level in having conversations with Saudi government officials, and I'll leave it at that.
And then, so what was the reason behind that delay in the statement coming out?
I wouldn't call it a delay. The United States government, as we handle situations in other countries as well, sometimes we decide to conduct our conversations and to conduct our diplomacy more privately than publicly because we feel that that could have the best outcome, and I'll leave it at that. Okay. Hi, Leslie. Go ahead.
Hi, welcome back.
Thank you.
You must be exhausted. Having just
Kylie's
arrived-
here. I'm here, so we're
just
doing
arrived
okay
last
for so
night.
far.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Has the U.S. seen any evidence that Jamal might be alive?
We don't know what has happened to him. We don't have any information on that. That's why I want to say we don't want to make any judgments about what happened, and we call for a thorough and transparent investigation.
You called for thorough and transparent inspection from the investigation from the Saudis, but what about the Turks? Have you asked them for their evidence?
I don't have
they've
any information
seen?
on that. I think that would be in the FBI's lane and local investigators'
And
lane.
you said there's the diplomatic channels you've spoken to the Saudis, but what about the Turks?
I don't have any information on that. I would would imagine that through the course of our conversations with the Turkish government, we have many conversations with the Turkish government, that this has certainly come up.
Because
Just hold on.
On
hold on.
Friday, I saw in the public schedule that Mr. Hale had a meeting with the Turkish ambassador here at the State Department.
I was out on Friday, so I don't recall what was on his public schedule. I'd have to just double check on that. Okay, I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just not aware of it. If it did, I was out on Friday. Go ahead.
But since this happened on Turkish soil, wouldn't speaking to the Turks and being part of their investigation be absolutely key?
I did not say that we have not spoken with the Turkish government. I just don't have any information on it at this moment. Okay? If I have anything additional for you, I'll let you know. Hey, Carol.
Hi, can I ask a follow-up on
Sure.
Jamal Khashoggi? So the UK Foreign Secretary has said that if the reports are correct, quote, we will treat the incident seriously. I wanted to ask, why has not Secretary Pompeo said that if the reports are true and the Saudis, our allies, turn out to be cold-blooded killers, that there will be repercussions?
I think that would be entirely a hypothetical question. And so if the Brits decide they want to comment that way, they're more than welcome to do so. But we're going to wait until the facts come out and we call again for a thorough and transparent investigation.
Will there be repercussions?
Carol, I'm not going to get ahead or assume that anything happened. We're calling for a thorough and transparent investigation. And again, let me say this one more time. I'll leave it at that. I don't have anything more for you on this today.
Can you just confirm if it was
Secretary planned to speak himself with his counterpart in Saudi Arabia, and did he raise this question when he spoke with the Crown Prince last week?
I can
There was a
confirm.
redoubt
I can
of that.
confirm that the secretary has had phone conversations, but I don't have any of the details, and some of those would just be private diplomatic conversations, which I will not be able to read out. Last time I'll say this: I don't have anything more for you on this today. If and when I have more, I will bring it to you. Okay? Go right ahead.
On the Palestinian.
Yes.
Too quick.
One more follow-up on Khashoggi, please.
Sir, I don't have anything.
It's in relation to what you just said.
I don't have anything more for you on that. When I do, I would be happy to give it to you.
And you decide if you don't.
Okay, I've not met you before, but go right ahead. Welcome to the State Department, and tell me your
Fadi
publication.
Mansour with Al Jazeera. I've been covering this place for 10 years now. Thank you very
Pardon
much.
me?
I've been covering this place for 10 years. I don't come every day.
Okay,
because
well,
I cover other
it's nice
places.
to meet you. You're welcome
Yes.
anytime.
Thank you for giving me
Go
the
right ahead.
opportunity to ask
And this will be the last
So-
question on this. Go ahead.
Thank you. So the fact that you called on the Saudis to carry an investigation, is the State Department assuming that Saudi Arabia is responsible for the whereabouts of
We're not
Khashoggi?
assuming anything, only because it was their consulate. We're asking them to conduct an investigation.
Thank you.
Saeed, go right ahead.
Very quickly, U.S. Envoy Mr. Greenblatt said that the Trump plan, the deal of the century, is heavily focused on Israeli security. Does that mean that you guys are giving up on the two-state solution, or you don't see any contradictions between?
This is something that we have talked about
Right.
for a very, very long time. We support that if both parties can agree to it.
Right.
That
But
hasn't
this
changed.
was only yesterday. I mean, he went out of his way to say that it is focused on Israeli security. What does that mean to you?
I'm not going to parse his words. I'd just refer you back to his comments, but our position has not changed. As the president has laid out, as he did not too long ago at the UN General Assembly, that we support a two-state solution if both sides can agree to that.
And one quick question on a young American student who has been detained in Israel for the past 5 days because she supports BDS. Can you share with us if you've done anything? Has she contacted the American embassy, or are you in touch with her?
We are aware of her case. Our embassy is providing consular access, as we would to all American citizens. We value freedom of expression. You and I have talked about this many times. Also in cases where people don't agree with local policies or even the United States policies. Ultimately, it is up to the government of Israel to decide who it wants to let into the country. I don't have anything more for you on that.
This young woman, Lara Al-Qasim, she has a visa. She was accepted at the Hebrew University. She was going there to study and so on. All the stuff that she should have done was already done. Are you not concerned about that?
Saeed, it's ultimately up to the government of Israel, or any country for that matter, to decide which individuals, which Americans it wants to let in. Okay?
The issue here is not that she wasn't allowed in, it's that she's being detained.
Excuse me, or being detained. I don't have any information beyond that, okay? Lori, go right ahead.
Hi. Dr. Murad,
The Yazidi woman was captured by ISIS and held captive, just won the Nobel Peace Prize, probably everyone knows, and she spoke yesterday. And she did note one positive point, the start of demining in Yazidi areas, which I assume is related to Secretary Pompeo's announcement in July at the Religious Freedom Conference of extra money for demining in the northern Iraq, the religious minority areas. So they're very happy with that. But overall, it was a grim picture, and among her complaints was no justice for Yazidis. And you and others, including the UN, have recognized ISIS assault on the Yazidis as genocide, but the Iraqi government hasn't. Are you prepared to put any pressure on them to do so?
I'm not familiar with her remarks. Of course, I'm familiar with who she is. She was one of the guests at our Religious Freedom Ministerial that was held over the summer. We were so proud to have hosted her here. My understanding is that the Vice President is meeting with her. I believe it's today. The Secretary and I had a brief exchange about her becoming one of the co-winners of the Nobel Peace Prize, and we're really proud of her. She's a very heroic woman who's done so much to advance the cause of not just religious freedom, but also freedom for women, especially freedom from sexual crimes. I don't have her comments. I don't have those remarks, so I'm just not going to comment on it beyond that.
How about her call for an international criminal trial for those members of ISIS who have committed these crimes against Yazidis?
I'm afraid I just don't have anything for you on that today. Okay? Okay. Hi. And how are you?
Thank you. Welcome from North Korea.
Thank you.
Okay, on North Korea, this trip has Kim Jong-un submitted a list of nuclear facilities, or you got anything from him for evidence of a nuclear list?
We sure did. We made a lot of progress. As you know, we just got back from last night from 4 countries, and I think it was 3 days. So it was a very busy time. The Secretary and Chairman Kim discussed the 4 pillars of the Singapore summit. That was something that was important for them to do. They spent considerable time together. The Secretary and the President, of course, have referenced that since. The Secretary just over at the White House speaking about this. Among the things they also discussed was an upcoming second summit that would be attended by our President and also Chairman Kim, and we look forward to working on all of the details of that. They also agreed to instruct their respective working level groups led by Steve Biegun, our special representative, and also his counterpart, who was named in North Korea, to start intensifying discussions on some of those 4 pillars that were laid out in the Singapore summit. As you know, Chairman Kim had invited inspectors to visit the Pyongyang nuclear test site to confirm that it has been irreversibly dismantled. We were pleased with that. And President Trump looks forward to continuing to build upon the trust that was first established at the Singapore summit. So we view it as making a lot of progress. We're pleased with that.
But North Korea has already destroyed Punggye-ri nuclear site and the Dongchang-ri missile site.
I think we can say this. We can affirmatively say that they invited a group of journalists out to watch something take place. Inspectors have not been there yet. So inviting inspectors to join, to take a look, and do their work is entirely different from what we've seen already.
Is that helpful for denuclearizations?
I'm sorry?
Is this helpful for the denuclearizations, for what you need? Exactly needed to, but
that would be a positive step forward, and Chairman Kim agreed to that, to have inspectors at that site. Okay, go ahead. Let's just hold on. I'll come back to you. Hi.
So you've made progress on a Trump-Kim summit. Do you have any idea of like the timing on that? Like, will it be before the end of the year or sometime afterwards?
Well, as the president has said, and I'm not going to get ahead of the president, of course, but the president has said he looks forward to seeing Chairman Kim soon. As you all remember, when we were planning for the Singapore summit, that takes time. There are a lot of details that are involved in pulling together a summit of that magnitude. We need to find a place that both countries can get to. We have to compare schedules. Chairman Chairman Kim's schedule, the president's schedule, the secretary's schedule, probably National Security Advisor Bolton's schedule, a lot of schedules. We also have to identify a place that has the infrastructure that is needed to accommodate 5,000 journalists. I believe there were 5,000 that were accredited last time. So there are a lot of things that that come into play here, and so we are hard at work at that. I know Steve Began looks forward to having follow-on conversations with his counterpart about some of those details that go into the summit, and as soon as we have something for you, we'll let you know.
So would you say that what you're waiting for to announce even a time or a location for that, is it all just logistical then?
Well, Michelle, as I just said, and I'll repeat it again, a lot goes into this. We start with comparing schedules. We start with comparing schedules.
No, you don't have to repeat it.
Okay.
I'm trying to save you some time. So are you saying that it's all logistical before you announce a date and time, or are you waiting for North Korea to do something?
We are looking forward to having our second summit. The president is looking forward to doing that. The timing of that will ultimately be announced by the White House. It'll be a White House-led meeting, and when we're ready to announce that, we will.
But the question is, since you listed all the logistics involved, are you simply waiting for logistics, or are you waiting for North Korea to do something related to denuclearization?
We have not said anything about waiting for North Korea to do anything more. In order to have that summit.
And when you say a lot of progress, since Pyongyang-ri is, by many accounts, an aging facility that's already been destroyed, by allowing inspectors to come there and see this, which is not necessarily key to North Korea's current and future nuclear program, why would you characterize that as a lot of progress?
Michelle, I think that's a very good step. I'll go back and say it one more time. What you have seen were a bunch of journalists brought out to that site, and you saw some sort of an explosion. Sending in inspectors to take a look around is an entirely different step, and a step in the right direction, and we think that that's progress, along with the other things that were addressed in the meeting. Nick, go ahead.
Just as a follow-up to that, I think one of the big questions is what exactly the administration, Secretary Pompeo, President Trump, actually want to achieve from this summit. What's the headline?
I'm not going to get ahead of the president. The secretary firmly believes, and I know that this is much to your dismay, to reporters' dismay, that our negotiations are best handled in public. So I'm not going to negotiate it here with all of you from the podium, and I'll let our experts do the negotiating and do their work and not get ahead of that. Okay? Hi.
The first summit was about general commitments, complete denuclearization by Chairman Kim. Do you expect from the next summit to achieve a broader agreement with
I'm not going to get ahead of what is being discussed at that summit. Okay, my job is not to lay out what our policy will be.
But because we see your goal, we don't see your method. So
okay, so that's a fair point. You see our goal, but you don't see our method. That is something. That is something.
Progress step by step, or
that is something that we will discuss.
Everything.
We will discuss that with the North Koreans and not the broader public, not the media, because we believe that negotiations, some of these complicated negotiations, are best handled between our country and theirs. And our objective is to get to the fully final, verified denuclearization of North Korea. We are working hard toward that goal. We think we've made progress, and we'll continue working toward that goal. Hi, go ahead. Hi. Yeah.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
So Secretary Pompeo did not meet with the Chinese President Xi Jinping on Monday. Could you please shed some light on what happened and what was the reason provided by Chinese government? Because it's an understanding that arrangements were being made for this meeting to happen.
We never announced any specific meetings ahead of our trip to China. It is not every time that the secretary would go to any given country that he would be meeting with the president of that country. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. And so that was just a reflection of this trip. But I know the secretary had good, constructive meetings with his Chinese counterparts that he met with yesterday.
Has the U.S. asked to such meeting to happen? Has the United States asked China ask Chinese government to arrange a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping?
Not to my knowledge. Anything going forward, we'll let you know when we have that planned.
Would you characterize the U.S.-China relationship as a strategic competitor?
Well, look, there's certainly a competitor. It's a complex and broad-based relationship that we have with China, as you all saw in the comments and exchanges between the Secretary and his counterparts. We have areas of common interest. North Korea is one of them. Working to combat illegal narcotics is another area where we work well together. We also have areas of disagreement and areas where we have challenges, and we'll keep working together on that. It's obviously an important relationship that we need to work hard to maintain. Okay. Yes. Go ahead. Yeah.
Was the Secretary surprised that Ambassador Haley resigned? Does he have any comment? Could you share with us what was his reaction?
Well, I think the Secretary addressed that from the White House today, in which he talked about what a great partner Ambassador Haley has been. The Secretary and Ambassador Haley have worked very well together since the beginning of this administration, but I would say more closely once he became Secretary of State. At the working level, from my level, her team and Ambassador Haley have been wonderful to work with. Sorry to see her depart. This happens, of course, in administrations. The Secretary, I think, is sorry to see her depart as well. I'm not going to get into who knew what, when, and all of that. What is ultimately important is that the President knew about her decision well in advance. They had those conversations. I'm not privy to those conversations, so I'd have to refer you to the White House for that. We're sorry to see her go and thank her for all her incredible service that she's done on behalf of the U.S. government and on taxpayers at the United Nations. Okay? Okay. Last question, I'm going to have to go.
So we saw the exchange of rhetorics when Secretary Pompeo was in China. Would you say those tensions now between United States and China would spill over to your cooperation on North Korea at this very critical time?
We don't think so, because China again and again has said to us, publicly and privately, that they are committed to the denuclearization of North Korea. They understand that. They recognize that. They recognize the importance of that matter. We don't think they're backing away. What we do say, though, is that countries, including China and Russia, can always do more. They can do more, but they are also one of the countries that had voted for UN Security Council resolutions, and so we expect those to uphold those. I'll do one last question, Nazira. Hi. Were you at the White House earlier today?
Yes.
Did I see you? I thought I
Yeah.
saw your yellow over there.
Yeah.
She gets around.
Okay,
Thank you.
And then I have two questions. One question regarding Afghan delegation. Dr. Abdullah was here. What is their, do you think that they have any achievement? Do they meet any high officials, U.S. authority?
I'm afraid I don't have any information as to whether or not Dr. Abdullah was here at the State Department or here in Washington. I can
He was
look.
in New York. I'm asking
Oh,
about
he was in-
General Assemblies.
At the
New York.
General Assembly.
Do they have any meeting with the Secretary of State or either President Trump?
I don't recall that. It seems like that was a year ago, even though that was only 2 weeks ago. So I'm so sorry. My apologies. I will have to double check to see if he had any meetings with U.S. officials.
2 weeks ago.
Okay, I'll check on that for you.
Yeah, the next question, the Ambassador Khalilzad.
Yes.
He is in Afghanistan and he traveled to Pakistan. Do you think that, useful for Afghanistan, Khalilzad mission?
I think it's extremely helpful to have Ambassador Khalilzad on travel. This is part of our team on the field. Having our people do what they do best, and that is going out and conducting American diplomacy around the world. He is leading an interagency delegation to Afghanistan, to Pakistan, to the UAE, to Qatar, and also to Saudi Arabia. It's a fairly lengthy trip. His mission there is to coordinate our U.S. efforts to bring the Taliban to the negotiating table. This is still Afghan-led, Afghan-owned. Our policy has not changed in any way, but we're proud and pleased to have him out there advocating on this behalf, and we'll be working in close coordination with the Afghan government. I've got to go, guys. We'll see you again real soon. Thanks.
All right, folks, thank you very much for joining us and choosing us as your stream of choice. Again, the president has a live Make America Great Again rally later on today. It starts at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you guys join us live here at Golden State Times. I also like to give a quick thank you to everyone that shared the live stream on social media. Later on today, we're going to be giving away a Make America Great Again hat. So make sure that you guys tune in and you guys share the live stream of President Trump's rally later on today, and you'll be entered to win a Make America Great Again hat. So make sure you guys stay tuned live here at Golden State Times. Make sure you guys tune in at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, live here at Golden State Times for President Donald Trump's rally in Iowa. Hope to see you guys there, and I'll see you soon. Peace.